This is going to be a section of the DVD where we see scenes that we cut out. Now, some of these scenes we cut out before we actually shot them, and others during the course of the movie, I think. That's the way, that's the way you remember it?
Yep.
Was it for financial reasons we cut them out?
Yep.
Did you like the idea that we were cutting them out?
Nope.
Well, there you go. We have a problem. This next sequence was planned for the balloon escape from the town. I can't remember when we cut it out. Did we cut it out as we were in production or before we started shooting, do you know?
I can't believe we cut it out before, because it's a good sequence which would have worked well, I think. I can't believe we voluntarily took it out.
Yeah, it was probably one of those, again, pressure moments when the budget's going crazy, you've got to cut things. And this is one that clearly it goes, but it's a great pity. In fact, when I'm thinking about it, this scene was the one that was curtailed when the film finance folk, in their wisdom, stopped us continuing shooting in Belchite.
That's right, yeah.
And so we just had to make do with what we could back in Rome. I think the pity is that had we done the scene as storyboarded, there would have been some real tension at that point. In the moment, it just passes.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to add at this point?
No, that was a good sequence, and it's a shame that it had to go.
Okay, do you want me to take the blame for that?
Well...
Let's blame film finance.
Okay. Fair enough.
The Baron, skimming over burnt rafters and chimney pots, begins to jettison more ballast. He smashes through a chimney pot. Smoke billows all around him. Desperately, he tries to gain height before he collides with the church spire. He tips bags of sand over the side when suddenly, out of one, topples Sally. He grabs for her, but it's too late. She falls away from him to certain death. But thank God for religion, her dress snags on the metal cross that tops the church spire. There she dangles as the cross begins to bend. Frantically, the Baron unhooks the galleon's anchor and hurls it towards the steeple. It catches on a shell hole on the side of the spire. Slowly he begins to haul in the rope, and the galleon is pulled closer and closer to the desperate Sally. The cross continues to bend. The balloon pulls the galleon upwards. The Baron strains to pull himself closer to the steeple. He reaches for Sally, but gasp! The cross breaks and Sally plummets. A hand snakes out and grabs her ankle. There she dangles upside down as the Baron manages with difficulty to pull her back into the galleon.
You! Thanks! You've ruined everything! Stupid!
I'm going with you!
No, you're not!
Yes, I am! Sally pulls the Baron's sword from its scabbard and cuts the ankle rope, tethering them to the steeple. The Baron and galleon lurch upward, throwing the Baron off his feet.
I absolutely and utterly refuse to...
If we go down now, we'll land on the Turks.
And now we enter the part of utter madness, because I have no idea what we were thinking when we wrote this sequence. And why did you think we could actually ever make it?
Well, you told me we could. So
And you believed me?
I did.
But it was clear that I was out of control, a madman.
Well, I know that now, but then I was young and
what are
naive
friends
and
for? I thought I was surrounded by people who were honest and would speak their minds rather than let me do what I try to do. He's not the friend I thought he was. Anyway, thank God we cut this out of the film.
Yeah, it's not...
It was some of the worst writing he ever did. I blame him this time.
Yeah, well, that's...
I tried to save his
not the first
career.
time.
I don't know if I achieved it. Have you ever worked since Munchausen?
No, never.
No, I failed. Scene 53, A Harbor on the Moon.
The Baron and Sally sail in the battered galleon into a strange-looking harbour of sand in which are moored gigantic, peculiarly shaped ships. Beyond the galleon, in the sky, quite small, is the globe of the Earth. The Baron and Sally are mooring the galleon to the quay alongside the giant moonships. They tie their thin earth rope around a massive capstan, adding it to the thick moon ropes already there.
I've always been one of the King's favourites. Well, we'll receive a right royal welcome, I'm sure.
Suddenly, the Baron and Sally and the area immediately surrounding them are thrown into shadow. They turn round in search of the cause and look upwards. Sally is astonished. There, something huge and flapping is emitting a terrible cacophonous shrieking, is diving out of the sky towards them. It lands in a whirlwind of dust. Coughing and gagging, Sally and the Baron peer through the clearing dust. Three gigantic bird-like heads, their beaks snapping and shrieking, lunge towards them. Sally grabs the Baron for protection. As the dust continues to clear, we can see that the heads all attach to the same body. However, they seem unhappy with the situation, spending as much time attacking each other as they do snapping at Sally and the Baron. Sitting on the three-headed griffin's back, trying to rein in the shrieking heads, is a giant soldier, armed with an asparagus spear and a mushroom shield. Cut to the Baron and Sally where they stand, dwarfed at the taloned feet of the huge griffin.
Good morning. I am Baron Munchausen. You may have heard of me. I'm a very close friend of your king, and I'd be most grateful if you would inform him of my arrival. Note the asparagus spear. Very effective and used skillfully enough.
The soldier lifts his asparagus spear and hurls it into the galleon, which instantly sinks beneath the sand.
An impressive hall on the moon.
Cut to a magnificent baroque hall. Not a soul is in sight. Off camera, a door opens. Footsteps. A footman carrying a tray with a glass cover walks into shot, upside down on the ceiling. As he crosses the hall, the camera revolves, turning the room upside down, but the footman the right way up. A tighter shot reveals a tiny Baron and Sally sitting on a giant tray.
You see, they look at things differently here.
The 50-foot-high footman continues on through a massive door.
Scene 58, the Royal Banqueting Hall.
As they pass through the door, the floor seems to drop away. They find themselves on the brink of an enormous bowl-shaped space. A banquet is in full swing in the giant king's banqueting hall. Giant guests sit round tables which are groaning with masses of giant food. Giant butlers and maids come and go, pouring wine and waiting on table. Everybody is having a wonderful time, and everybody and everything is labelled with a description of what he, she, or it is. On seeing the Baron and Sally arrive, the king, who is seated at the top of the centre table, detaches his head from his body and sends it to greet them. Baron Munchausen. The footman lifts the lid from the tray.
Your Majesty.
How marvellous to see you again.
You remembered.
Nobody forgets the Baron. The Baron introduces Sally to the king's head.
Sally, the king. Well, his head at any rate.
How do you do? Delighted. Just to be on the safe side, have our new guests clearly labelled immediately. The footman's head nods, disconnects from his body and hovers off. Sally looks puzzled.
You see, they forget everything whenever there's an eclipse.
You know, there's something in particular about you, Baron, which I feel I ought to remember. What on moon is it? Oh, never mind. Come and join us. You arrived in time for the great monthly feast of the forgetting. Music! Entertainment! Cut to a stage at the other end of the banqueting hall, on which a group of giant musicians accompany four singers who do a song and dance routine with a great deal of choreography for detachable heads.
It's nice to remember the nice things. It's nice to remember what's nice. It's nice to remember the nice things, but it's even nice to forget. Too much remembering brings you down. Too much remembering makes you frown. It's nice to remember.
Cut to the Baron and Sally, who are seated at the tabletop at the opposite end of the king. They are sitting on chairs stacked with books, which brings them up to the level of the other giant guests. The Baron now has a label attached to him reading Munchausen, Baron, and Sally has a label tied to her reading Salt, Sally. But what if we forget? We've got to get back.
We won't forget. We'll leave before the eclipse.
Why didn't you say anything about this forgetting business before?
I forgot.
But we can't stay here. There isn't time.
Don't worry. The city's perfectly all right. The present assault's over. Everyone there is quite safe.
How do you know?
I just know.
Cut to a very quick scene of ferocious hand-to-hand fighting along the city walls as waves of Turks swarm up ladders and over the battlements and attack the defenders. Cut back to Sally, who is looking at the Baron sceptically. Cut to the four heads on stage.
Too much remembering spoils the day. Too much remembering turns you grey. It's nice to remember that.
Cut to a wide shot of the tabletop where the king and his guests are all laughing and knocking back huge goblets of wine filled from an enormous punch bowl in the centre of the table. Cut to the Baron and Sally who are trying to cope with the giant bowls of mushroom soup which have labels floating on them saying, mushroom soup.
Baron.
The Baron and Sally look up from their soup.
Ariadne.
Cut to Ariadne as she sits down on the vacant place next to the Baron. She's very beautiful, extremely sexy, is wearing a coronet and a low-cut dress, and is gigantic.
How thrilling.
Your Majesty, the pleasure is all mine.
Sally, jealous and impatient, clears her throat noisily. The Baron introduces her to Ariadne.
Sally Salt, Queen Ariadne.
At this point, the Baron, Sally, and Ariadne are distracted by a loud burst of laughter and cheers from further up the table. Cut to a wide shot of the king and his guests, where we see that they are all laughing at the Prime Minister, who is clearly very drunk. Cut to a wide shot of the table as the king and his guests fall about at the sight of the drunken Prime Minister's head, scooting around the punch bowl, choking and spitting out fountains of wine. A couple of servants fish out the half-drowned head and set it on the table. Cut to the king as he raises his glass in salute to the Baron. Cut to the Baron as he attempts to return the king's salute with his giant goblet of wine. He has to climb onto the table in order to pick up the glass. The Baron manages with difficulty to return the king's salute, but soaks himself with wine in the process. Cut to the king and his guests who are laughing at the Baron and enjoying the show he's providing with the giant goblet. Cut to the soaked Baron as he bows to the king. Sally is, for the first time, beginning to really enjoy herself. Cut to Ariadne as she dips a finger in the puddle of spilt wine and slowly licks it off her finger. She smiles seductively at the Baron, then picks up a few grapes from one of the platters and while maintaining eye contact with the Baron, eats them lasciviously. She then flicks a grape to the Baron. Cut to the Baron as he catches a grape from Ariadne. He tries to bite into it, but can't break the skin with his teeth. The Baron then climbs onto the table again and attempts to open the grape with his giant knife. This doesn't work either. He looks towards Ariadne and smiles. Cut to Ariadne as she continues to eat grapes and look meaningfully at the Baron. Cut to the Baron as he gives up his trying to break into his grape with an unwieldy giant knife and begins stamping on it. This rapidly leads to him showing off his soccer skills and expertly juggling the grape with his feet and keeping it in the air. Cut to Ariadne, who is delighted with the Baron's impressive performance. Cut to Sally, who looks disgusted. She throws down her giant fork. This causes the Baron to momentarily lose his concentration and accidentally kick the grape towards Ariadne. Cut to Ariadne as the grape shoots towards her and disappears into her cleavage. Cut to the Baron and Sally. Sally buries her face in her hands with shame, and the Baron rushes towards Ariadne to retrieve the grape. Cut to Ariadne as the Baron dives into her cleavage in pursuit of the grape. After a struggle, which Ariadne enjoys quite a lot, the triumphant Baron emerges from between her breasts with a grape between his teeth. The Baron is very pleased with himself, but Ariadne suddenly sees something beyond him and is frightened. The camera pulls back to reveal the king's head hovering behind the Baron. The king is seething with jealousy and anger. The Baron fails to notice him for a moment until he sees Sally trying to signal a warning and becomes aware of Ariadne's expression and the fact that the banqueting hall has become silent. At last the Baron turns to the king. Now I remember. You tried to steal my queen once before.
Scene 59. Cage in a cell.
The Baron and Sally are in a large cage, about the size of a giant's head, suspended high up from a hook in a wall. There are a couple of empty cages next to theirs. How stupid.
If you hadn't distracted me, I wouldn't have kicked that grape.
You shouldn't have flirted with her in the first place.
I was merely being polite.
We've got to escape before the eclipse. If we forget everything, how are we going to get back to Earth? It's really silly coming to the moon.
Don't worry about a thing.
Baron and Sally look across the cell to another wall. Cut to a wide shot of the cell. We see here that there are dozens of cages hung around the walls and that many of them contain the heads of prisoners. The prisoners' bodies are chained to the walls and floor beneath the cages. The Prime Minister's head is in one of the cages.
Once you're forgotten, you're forgotten. It's very soothing.
How can we get out of here?
No need. We'll be in the eclipse in a moment.
He nods towards a window through which can be seen the approaching shadow of the eclipse sweeping across the buildings of the palace.
After that, no responsibilities, no worries, no guilt. A clean slate. You'll be very happy.
We don't want to forget.
If you take my advice...
At this point, the shadow of the eclipse falls through the window and onto the Prime Minister.
Where am I? Who am I? Where am I? Who are you? Why am I? Why? Where? What?
Cut to the Baron and Sally. Come on, if we climb along here, we can jump down onto one of those bodies. Sally slips through the bars of the cage and slips across the void into the next cage. The Baron, who has some difficulty squeezing through the bars, follows her. This new cage is littered with giant straw, and the Baron steps onto a pile of it as he enters.
Ow!
The Baron springs away and draws his saber.
Come out of there! Ow!
At this point, cut back to the movie as we shot it, and it's the entrance of Berthold, played by Eric Idle, who appears from the straw and takes us further along in the story until, cut to a wide shot of the cell as Ariadne's head zips down from the cage and out through the door. As this happens, those giant prisoners in the cell who haven't yet been eclipsed become aware of the fact that an escape is taking place and begin shouting.
Oi! What about us? Oi, take us with you! Don't go without us! They're escaping, you know that. Help!
Cut to outside the giant cell doors, Ariadne's head, with the Baron and company in her hair, zips out into the passageway. A second later, a giant jailer's head comes out of the guard room at the far end of the passage.
What's going on down there?
The jailer's head turns and whistles back into the guard room. The jailer's head then rockets down the passage towards the cell. A moment later, his body races out of the guard room in hot pursuit of the head. The body catches up with the head and joins it just in time for them to run into the cell as one. The jailer halts inside the door.
All right, what the hell's all this about?
Through the door behind him, we see Ariadne's head dart across the opening. The door slams shut.
Passage, outside cell, room.
Ariadne's head turns the key with her teeth. This action nearly dislodges the Baron and company. From inside the cell, the jailer hammers on the door and shouts as Ariadne's head, with the Baron and company on board, zooms off down the passageway.
Stone passages in palace.
Cut to Ariadne's head with the Baron and company on it as she zooms along a series of stone passages.
I'll take you to the Cheddar Gate. You can get out of the palace there. After that, you're on your own.
Ariadne's head reaches a junction in the passage and turns a corner. Here she finds herself in a passage along which the eclipse shadow is approaching. A couple of headless bodies, limbs akimbo, rush wildly past. The area already in shadow is full of inert bodies and even more inert heads.
What?
Oh,
Who? Me? Ah, where?
where?
Blast!
How?
The eclipse! Oh, we'll have to go another way. Giant spiral staircase.
Cut to Ariadne's head with its passengers as it zooms down a giant spiral stone staircase. Ariadne stops as she hears guards crashing up from below.
Guards! Oh, ah.
Ariadne's head flies to a circular window on the outer wall of the staircase. She opens the window with her teeth.
You've got to have good teeth to live in.
Suddenly, the window pivots and swings, Ariadne's head and passengers out onto a window ledge. The Baron, Berthold, and Sally nearly fall thousands of feet from the ledge, but manage to hang on to Ariadne's hair.
Oh, my God.
Cut to Berthold's POV as he looks down the wall of the palace to a distant moat below. Cut to Ariadne's head in the window embrasure.
Oh, don't look. I hate heights.
Cut to above Ariadne's head, where we look down to Sally and the Baron, who are hanging onto Ariadne's hair and trying to save Berthold from falling the sickening distance to the ground below. Cut to the Baron and Sally as they haul Berthold to comparatively safety.
Oh, shh.
The Baron and Sally and Berthold crouch beside Ariadne's head in the window embrasure. They are all masked from the staircase within by a baroque carved head on the lower part of the inside window frame. We hear the guards getting closer.
Oh, shh. Ah, shh. She's going to give us away if she keeps making those stupid noises.
At this point, a guard stops, out of breath, on the spiral staircase and leans against the window. A second guard joins him. The Baron, Sally, and Berthold hold their breath and look with anxiety towards Ariadne, who is trying to hold hers.
You know, I don't know, some things you want to forget, but other things, well, the things you enjoy, the things that really turn you on, you know?
The Baron and Sally and Berthold exchange desperate looks. The Baron quickly takes off his coat and stuffs it into Ariadne's mouth.
What's the point of chasing them? Got to forget in 5 minutes anyway.
Oh, that's why I want to catch them. Have a bit of fun, you know. Do something really nasty. I mean, something that's worth forgetting. Oh, come on.
Au revoir, my dear Baron. Oh, yeah.
Y tus trailers. Visita mi canal.
The Baron, Sally, and Berthold arrive at an impressive portal on one side of the cloistered quadrangle. This leads out to an open moon, a vast desert space littered with unfinished buildings. Behind the Baron and company, in the middle of the quadrangle, the giant headless body continues to frolic. A giant female head, set in the top of the arch of the portal, sees the Baron and company.
3 escaped prisoners at this cheddar gate! 3 escaped prisoners!
The Baron and company look around, panic-stricken. The bells begin to ring.
Run!
We can't. Berthold can't move.
Take his weights off.
I have.
What?
The Baron looks at Berthold, who is indeed without his weights. He's old. He can't run anymore.
Nonsense, he's just out of practice. 3 escaped prisoners! We cut to the king's bedroom where Robin Williams, Re Tutto, continues as shot in the movie.
That's it! I find your Baron, and then I kill you!
We then return to our heroes who are at a strange cloister, and there is a headless body sitting there in the shadows. Cut to the Baron, Sally, and Berthold as they climb up the body of the headless giant, who is now sitting on the giant grass in the quadrangle. The giant body seems restless. He obviously feels something on his clothing, and he hits himself as if swatting a fly, narrowly missing Berthold.
Oi, pack that in. Is this really a good idea?
The Baron has nearly reached the body's shoulders.
Nearly there.
So's the eclipse.
The body brushes his shoulder with his hand, almost dislodging the Baron, who nevertheless manages to get onto his shoulder and shout down into the neck hole.
Keep still!
The giant body stops fidgeting, and the Baron helps Sally and Berthold onto the shoulders.
Ready?
Sally and Berthold nod.
Stand up!
The giant body stands up. So far, so good. This is precisely the sort of thing that no one ever believes. Now, let's see if we can get out of here. Turn anti-clockwise! The giant body begins to spin around anti-clockwise.
No! No! Stop! Stop! It's too far!
The body spins around the other way.
Stop! Stop! That's enough! Stop!
Halt! The body halts. The Baron company look up to find themselves facing a platoon of giant soldiers armed with asparagus spears and mushroom shields, arriving at the end of the cloister, opposite the gate.
Run for it!
The body races off, straight for the soldiers.
Stop! Stop! Damn it! The other way! The other way! Stop!
Asparagus spears whistle past as they rocket towards the platoon.
Right turn!
At last the body obeys and turns. Shouting instructions, the Baron steers the body back towards the gate, managing to dodge the spears as the soldiers give chase. As they race towards the gate, we can see the shadow of the eclipse closing the opening. The Baron desperately steers the body dangerously close to the shadow and somehow just manages to get through the gate before the shadow closes the opening, trapping the soldiers on the other side. Cut in tight to the infuriated sergeant.
Come back, Corporal! This is desertion! I won't forget this
The shadow of the eclipse has covered the sergeant's head. Cut to the giant headless body with the Baron, Sally, and Berthold on its shoulders as it races across the moon, away from the receding palace, past abandoned half-finished buildings and structures. The moonscape, the soles of a pair of well-worn shoes, fill the screen. The camera cranes up, revealing the giant soldier's body lying exhausted on the ground. In the distance, the shadow of the eclipse approaches. Cut to the shoulders of the body. Sally is weaving a rope out of Ariadne's hair. The Baron is apoplectic.
Get up!
It's tired. I know the feeling.
Look!
Cut to Sally's POV as the dark shadow of the eclipse creeps towards them across the surface of the moon.
Keep weaving! Faster!
At this point, we hear the sound of a distant hunting horn. The Baron and company look back towards the direction of the palace. Cut to the Baron and company's POV, where we see, flying towards us, above and along the edge of the advancing eclipse line, a group of mounted three-headed griffins. Cut to a close-up of the griffins, where we discover that they are being ridden by the king and a number of courtiers, all armed with asparagus spears and mushroom shields. Unfortunately, we couldn't afford the courtiers, and so we are stuck with just the king, played by Robin Williams, continuing the movie from this point. So now we come to the sequence that was the reason I wanted to make this film. This adventure from Raspa's original book was, to me, just spectacular and set us off on this journey that we've all learned to never go on again. Why did we cut it out?
Too difficult to do, too expensive, too time-consuming to make.
And I wasn't capable, you felt, of doing it properly?
Somebody must have thought that.
Well...
But it was good. I mean, it's a shame, another shame.
It's a great shame, and these are the moments when you lie awake at bed at night weeping, saying, if only.
Yeah,
Que
in
tus
fact, if we'd
trailers.
made this,
Visita
we
mi
probably
canal.
needn't have made the rest of the movie, because it's the best sequence, isn't it, really? It's the
It would have
most-
cut out all that, there's sort of an hour and a half before that sequence would have
and it would
appeared.
have been a lot cheaper, actually.
You're right. We could start and end with that. In fact, maybe we could do a sequel to Baron Munchausen, a very short sequel, which is this. Possibly.
Good idea.
It's a bit late, though. Will they give us the money this time around? I think the success of the DVD will tell us a lot about our future.
Okay.
Spurring Bucephalus the Baron with sword raised high, takes off after the cloud of dust that signals the frantically retreating army. Cut to the Baron in a single-handed pursuit of the Turks. Bucephalus, full of the excitement of the chase, gallops faster and faster, quickly overtaking the Turks as they race across the plain. But, rather than slow down once in the middle of the army, he charges on faster and faster. The Baron is unable to control him as he races through and away from the Turks in an excess of triumph and exhilaration. The countryside flashes past in a blur. We cover tens of miles in less than a second. Bucephalus is delirious with speed. The Baron is barely able to stay in the saddle. They are moving so fast. Suddenly, in the distance, is a familiar sight. Constantinople. The walls and towers of Constantinople rush towards us. A sentry above the gate sees the approaching whirlwind of horse and rider and throws a lever to drop the portcullis. Cut to a close-up of the top of the gate as the portcullis begins to descend. Cut to the Baron looking worried as the massive spiked portcullis crashes down on him and Bucephalus. But somehow their speed carries them through in the nick of time. A fountain courtyard. The Baron at last manages to rein in the steaming Bucephalus, and looking up finds himself in the same fountain courtyard we've seen in his earlier tale of the adventures in Constantinople. People in the square, on seeing the Baron and Bucephalus, quickly run for cover. Bucephalus begins to drink copiously from the fountain. The Baron, impatient with the horse, tries to pull his head up.
Come on, come on! Damn it, we've got to get back. We'll miss my triumphal entrance.
Suddenly, we hear the sound of gushing water, and the Baron turns around and looks down at the rear of the horse. He registers astonishment, and the camera pulls back to reveal that Bucephalus' hindquarters are missing, and that the water which he is drinking is pouring straight out of him and onto the cobbles of the square, the gates of Constantinople. The Baron rides the front half of Bucephalus up to the inside of the closed portcullis and looks out. The countryside outside the walls. Cut to the Baron's POV through the portcullis. We see Bucephalus' hindquarters friskily gambolling about in a field outside the gate. Outside the gates of Constantinople, the portcullis rises as the Baron begins to order about some of his men standing open-mouthed by the gate.
Quick, man, fetch those hindquarters.
They rush off in pursuit of the free half of Bucephalus. The Baron turns to another.
You, get some branches from that laurel bush.
The man rushes off towards the laurel bush. Cut to a wide shot as the struggling hindquarters are carried back to the Baron and Bucephalus. The third man has returned with an arm full of laurel branches.
Can you sew?
The camera pans slowly along the battlements, crowded with the cheering people. From over their heads we can see the Baron and Bucephalus riding back to the town. We are now in the remains of the Turkish camp. The Baron and the reinstated Bucephalus, laurel stitches hold front and hind quarters neatly together, ride through the remains of the Turkish siege equipment towards the gate of the jubilant town. And as they enter the town, the laurel has not only taken root, but has grown into a beautiful bower to protect the Baron, and so he rides in, crowned by the laurels of his victory.
Thank you very much for joining in our little tete-a-tete on this DVD. It's been a wonderful chance for me and Charles to get together. Again, we haven't seen much of each other, so we were at last able to share some interesting moments of our lives with each other before we forget everything.
Yeah, some bitter memories.
Bitter memories, some better memories.
And better memories.
Yeah,
And,
some body memories, some booty memories.
and good night from him.
And him as well. If I could only remember who he is.
Should we be firing? Pardon? Should we be firing back at them? No firing on Wednesday. It's in the rules. Well, I know that. If we fire back at them, that's tantamount to saying that either we don't know it's Wednesday and are thoroughly confused, or that we do know it's Wednesday but don't care. Well, why are they doing it to us then, sir?
Maybe they're trying to make us believe it's Tuesday or Thursday.
In my view, they're trying to undermine our values. Everything that we stand for.
Yes, sir.
Wednesday's been half-day closing in this town since 1592.
Right, sir.
It's our tradition. Half-day closing, all-day Wednesday. If we let that go, it's the beginning of the end.
How do we get out of here?
Out? You can't get out. You're dead.
We're not dead.
Her name was He's dead. He's dead just now.
No. He's just gone back to life again. He'll be a miracle out there over in the land of the living. Till they get sick of the boring old git.
Get out of there! Get out, you scoundrels, you traitors! Run away in our darkest hour, would you? Yes. You weak-kneed, lily-livered, yes, yellow-bellied, you yellow-bellied lot. You give actors a bad name, you give theatre a bad name, you give escaping a bad name. Where did you think you could escape to anyway? Ash, get back to your dressing rooms and prepare for Act 2. And that was my late wife's favourite wig.